slip through every day. O.J. Simpson is a suspect in a double homicide, a terribly gruesome crime. The white Brokaw that you see on the freeway contains O.J. Simpson, a fugitive at large.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of the crime of murder.
Do you regret saying that the Clinton administration is the enemy of normal people?
Yes, truth is occasionally. I'm not very smart.
Mark this day, May 2nd, 1994, as another major date on the calendar of freedom. In South Africa, after 300 years of racial oppression, tonight, a black president-elect.
The people of South Africa have spoken.
Witness to History continues.
A massive car bomb exploded outside of a large federal building in downtown Oklahoma City, shattering that building, killing children, killing federal employees, military men, and civilians.
Got one here! There's a child here!
When I first heard that there'd been a terrible explosion at a federal building in the heart of Oklahoma City, I thought it's got to be natural gas. And then when we learned that it was a bomb and a truck bomb, click. It's got to be a Middle Eastern terrorist of some kind. And then we saw Timothy McVeigh, and that was, oh my God, this is a homegrown terrorist. When I got there, it's just hard to describe the utter destructiveness of that bomb. How anyone survived is beyond me. There is, as you might expect, a kind of surreal quality to the scene in downtown Oklahoma City as rescue workers work round the clock in that very dangerous rubble trying to find any survivors. I remember the policeman carrying the body of the child out. Everybody remembers that.
The baby that I had in my arm was not moving, not breathing, not responding to anything we could do for her. I just picked her up and took her to where I thought she'd get some help.
I just kept telling it to breathe, just telling the child to breathe. I couldn't see any signs of life in the child. It was a quiet feeling. I mean, I remember looking down at her and really not noticing anything that was going on, you know, around me.
That photograph has brought me so much pain. But when Bailey died, I got over 100,000 letters from people. Just people going, you know, thanks to your daughter, I give my child an extra hug at night. And I thought, you know, if this is saving from some children, even one, from being abused, it's worth it.
I spent several days down there and then went back again a year later. I have to say this about the people of Oklahoma City. I can't remember one group of people who'd been through so much trauma that was so unexpected and so undeserved and so painful and so costly, who responded to it with such courage and grace. And they were a real lesson to the rest of us. I went to the trial of Timothy McVeigh. I actually met him in a prison holding cell in Colorado. And he looked like the guy who was the assistant manager of a big chain supermarket who was really going places in life. He was articulate, he was obviously intelligent. But I looked deep into his eyes and I couldn't get it. Yes, he was angry. Yes, he believed that the federal government had abused its place to kill that many people, especially children who had just been placed in daycare. In 1,000 years, I'll never understand what drove him to that point.
It's very much a gold rush.
The computer convention here in Las Vegas, a look at a part of the computer world that we've all been hearing a good deal about. It's called the Internet. Are a lot of people just getting on to the Internet because they feel that they have to get onto the playing field, so to speak?
Well, it's very hip to be on the Internet right now.
A truck bomb exploded at the gates to a U.S. Air Force facility in Saudi Arabia this evening, and it appears now that there are at least 11 deaths. The great tragedy and the great mystery of TWA Flight 800, a mid-air explosion, and a search of the seas for answers. A bomb tore at the heart of Atlanta today and the Olympic Games.
At high noon, the president reaffirmed his oath of office.
Once again, our economy is the strongest on earth. Once again, we are building stronger families, thriving communities, better educational opportunities, a cleaner environment, and record numbers of our fellow citizens have moved from welfare to work.
This is the final weekend of British rule for this Chinese city of great wealth and great hope, Hong Kong. 1 week, 2 funerals, 2 women from such different backgrounds, Mother Teresa and Princess Diana. And for just a moment, the whole world was united in its sense of a common loss. Well, this week on NBC News, we're bringing you a series of reports called Going Home, another more personal way of measuring the great changes in this country. When I came back and I thought, what has really changed here? You know what's really changed? The place of women. When I was growing up in these streets of Yankton, it was a man and boy's world. The women of this community. It was so unfair. When I was a young man here, women made things go, but they didn't get the recognition that they deserved in many ways. That was true of my mother. It was certainly true of Meredith, the woman I married, and it was true of most of the women that I knew in the community.
Women had a lot of recognition within the high school. The best debaters on the debate team were women. But then after graduating, it just seemed to disappear.
They were just not encouraged. As Meredith once said, I think her father thought when she went off to college she was going to get a Mrs. degree, which is kind of what people thought.
I was expected to probably either be a nurse or a teacher. I became a teacher. It was the right choice for me at the time, although had I thought about wider horizons, I might have made some different choices.
There was a case, a member of our own family, my wife's aunt, who was a very gifted physician, got half the salary as the male partners in the medical clinic. Think about that. That was routine in those days. And then it began to change. When our girls came along, it just all seemed possible. And they never assumed that anything was off limits to them. The fact is, though, that even for my daughter's generation, they're still working this out, as society is. You know, women get to a certain place, decide to have a child, and then their career gets interrupted for a while, and there still is a glass ceiling. And it's part of the evolution of who we are and how we're adjusting to it all.